Hello students. Today we will discuss the fourth topic, that is activity based costing. First we discuss the meaning of activity based costing. Activity based costing, here three words, that is activity, second is based, and third is a costing. Activity in the sense that a function which are performed for a producing a product, and on that basis you are doing a costing. Costing is a technique of ascertaining the cost of particular cost center or cost unit. On the basis of, you can say that activity based costing is a modern methodology of accounting or costing in which costs are first tracked to the activities done or performance for producing a product, and after the activity you can make a conclude that the final overhead charges by to product for ascertaining the cost of that particular product. So activity based costing is a technique of charging overheads to the cost center. That cost center may be product, services, job, customers. Under this overheads method, we first calculate the overheads separately for each cost activity, and then this charges to that particular activity cost to our final product. That means here we can say that activity based costing is a costing methods where all the costings are ascertained on the basis of activity performed for producing a product or services. We can see the different definition. That is, first definition is that activity based costing is a costing method that identify activities in the organization and assign the cost of each activity to all the product and services according to the actual consumption by each. That means according to this method we first identify them what are the activities are performed for producing a product and services, and then assign the cost of each activity. Then we identify the what are the costs are ascertained or what are the costs incurred for each activity. That cost you can ascertain, and according to that we can find out the final cost incurred for that product or services. This model assign more indirect cost into direct costs compared to conventional costing. We know that the our traditional or conventional costing methods is totally different from the activity based costing, because in the traditional costing method you cannot be identify the cost of each activity. We ascertain the cost of only the particular cost center or cost unit, but in the modern methodology you can use the activity based costing for ascertaining the cost of each and every activity, and make identify that what are the total costs absorbed by the final product using the different activities. Second definition, according to CIMA, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, activity based costing as an approach to the costing and monitoring activities which involve tracking resources consumption and costing final output. Resources are assigned to activities and activities to cost object based on the consumption estimates. The latter utilize cost driver for attached activity cost of output. According to that definition we can say that the activity based costing is approach to costing and monitoring the activities which involve tracking resources consumption. We know that for the producing a product we must have different use the different resources and also perform different activities. We will first identify the what are the activities are done for the producing that product, and what are the resources are consumption by that activity. According to resources are consumed by that activity, you can ascertain the cost of each activity and make aggregate to find out the total cost consumed by that activity with the help of using the resources consumed. Third definition is that the Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of Bangladesh activity based costing as accounting method which identify the activities which a firm perform and then assign indirect cost to cost object. According to that definition, they will say that activity based costing is accounting method which identify the activities which firm is perform. According to above two definition, he say that firstly, identify the different activities which are performance by our organization or firm, and then assign or distribute the indirect cost or overhead to cost center or cost object. These are the three definition of activity based costing. Next is that the steps in activity based costing. First step is that identify the different activities which are done or which are performed by the firm for the producing a product or services or goods. So this is the first step. According to that step, firm organization identify the what are the activities are done, what are the activities are performed for producing a product, goods or services. Then for identify the better understand the activities are performed, they will be apply different tools like interview and questioning. But the problem is that you may end up identify the hundreds of activities which of course not a good solution. That means if you are using the different activities for producing a product or goods, so it is very difficult to collect the different information from different persons. So as a guide, only choose the activity which have a biggest impact on overheads. So for that solution, you can choose the those activity which have biggest impact on our overhead cost. You have 100 of activities, but you cannot be collect all the information, or you cannot make collect the cost of all the activities. Firstly, we will identify the which activities are main, or the which activities are most impact on our overhead cost. Then that activities resources cost you can be collect and identify to find out the final product, goods or services. These are the some example of purchasing the new material, preparing machine, running the machines, assembling the components, and the inspection of final finished product. These are the example of some activities that is the most important or most impacted factors or activity, and that factory you can make consider for the assign the overhead cost to product or services. Then assign the overhead to activities. In this step, we assign the various overhead to activities identified in step number first. We already discussed that there are different activities like purchasing raw materials, preparing machines, running the machines, assembling the components, and inspection of final finished product. These are some example of our activities. According to that, second step is that we identify the cost or overheads of that activities and assign to various overheads to that activities. For example, there will be staff salaries by performing the various activities identified in step number first. There will be other costs as well as which need to link the above activities. Once various costs are assigned to this activity, this is called as a cost pool. Here is a new concept is that cost pool. Cost pool in the sense that in the first number step we have already identified the different activities. After the identifying the all the activities, you must be assigned the different overhead to that activities which are performed for firm for producing a goods or product. So that is called as a cost pool, because the one's overhead costs are assigned to this activity, that it is called as a cost pool. Third step is that identify the cost drivers. Now it is time to define the cost driver for each activity. Cost driver in the sense that a base, on that basis you can make a distribute or assign the overhead to different activities. This step also involves interview process from the various staff in different departments. Most common cost drivers are machine setup, direct labor hour, machine hour, and purchase requisition. These are some example of cost driver. On that basis, you can be assigned the different overhead costs to that particular activity. For example, direct labor hour. How much working hours has done by our labor for the particular activity? On the basis of you can be assigned the overhead to that activity. Also machine hour, purchase requisition, these are some example. Next is that predetermined overhead. Management accountant need to calculate predetermined overhead. This can be obtained by dividing the estimated manufacturing overheads identified in step number 2 by the cost driver identified in step number 3. This is the one formula of identifying the overhead rate, is that we make aggregate of all the estimated manufacturing overheads according to step number 2 divided by cost driver, which I have already say that cost driver in the sense that base, on that basis you can be distribute or assign the overhead cost. So you can identify what are the overhead rates that are charged for that activities. Last point is that allocation of overheads to each product. After the identifying the predetermined overhead rates, the last step is that management account apply a predetermined overhead to each product activity level to allocate the overhead to each product. Last step is that you must be distribute or allocate or apply our predetermined overhead rate for each product activity level to allocate the overhead of each product. These are the steps in the activity based costing. Okay, remaining part we will discuss in next video. Thank you.